Do me a favor and clap your hands. Thank you.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We teach and offer the classes.
All right, man. So let's start off with intro of just who you are.
Yeah.
Basically where you're from, where you grew up, stuff like that. So 3, 2, 1. Just tell it to me right now.
Yeah, so I was born in Vale, at the hospital in Vale, and lived in the same house my whole life, which is kind of cool, in Avon. I went to Eagle County Charter Academy till 8th grade, and then went to Vale Mountain School for high school. I got into paddling sophomore year in high school, like the summer after, I guess, so the summer between sophomore and junior year. And then just like once I got my role, like really liked it, you know, and that's like pretty much what I've been doing since then. I believe 2 summers ago last summer was my first summer working here. So I was just pretty much in the shop and doing some lake classes and stuff. And then this year I'm starting to do more teaching and like working on the river with like Alpine Quest, and that's just been my summer job. And freshman year college, I went to Babson College in Boston, but I'm not going back there because didn't like it very much. And yeah, I think that's it.
What's your full name?
Benjamin Baron Hymes.
Okay. What's the place that you work at? What's your employment area?
Alpine Quest Sports, and I work in a retail shop, and I teach on the river.
So what made you want to get into stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking? Was it a love affair of the water as a kid, or was it something that was introduced to you later in life?
Yeah, well, like water itself was early. Like I was always around boats, like a lot of motorboats and, you know, like Lake Powell kind of things. Super into that my whole life, but I didn't really get introduced to the river a lot. Like I'd been on the river, but I wasn't super into it. I'd only really been rafting until like sophomore year of high school. And actually, I had actually learned to kayak 7th and 8th grade with school through this shop. So this shop took me and my classmates out on the river, and we learned to kayak, but I didn't really like kayaking then. I wasn't good at it or anything. And like,
why was that?
because I just like every time I went anywhere near any waves, I'd flip over and swim, and it was just not fun, you know. So, but then I got back into it sophomore year in high school, and then once you get past those learning stages, it's like the most fun ever. And that's why like since I got like proficient at it, it's just been like the only thing I wanted to do, and just kind of climb the ladder of like things, like running things, you know, just like getting from like class 3 to class 4 to class 5, and then starting to race here recently. So, and that's all just because that's like all I want to do is kayak, you know. So.
You mentioned that you're teaching now. Is that correct?
Yeah, starting to teach.
Yeah. How did you get into teaching?
Well, I'm just starting with that, honestly. I am taking an ACA course that like allows you to instruct like next week or something. And but I've done a lot of lake teaching and some river teaching, and I like that because you get paid to go kayaking. You know, like what's better than that? So that I always thought that was cool, and like showing people the sport is really cool. You know, like when you like love something so much, and then you teach someone else like how fun it is. That's kind of a cool, like rewarding experience.
Any stories recently from any teachings? Something went wrong, or something was completely epic, or something like that?
Well, the GoPro executives is pretty epic because none of them had ever kayaked before, and we just put them in sit-on-tops and took them down the river, and like they're like. People were swimming all over the place. We were trying to keep them from like getting scared out of it, you know, because it only takes one swim for someone to like never set foot in the kayak ever again. So we had a bunch of guides, and like it was literally like 2 to 1. There's one guide to 2 people, and people would swim, and we'd rescue them, and it was crazy because like there's like 19 sit-on-tops going down the river. Like a lot of the time people weren't in them, and so that was kind of a crazy like experience.
Explain a little bit more what a sit-up is.
A sit-on-top?
Yeah, sit-on-top.
So like these kayaks that like most people use are whitewater kayaks, and they have a skirt so that you there's just a cockpit, and you sit inside, and then you pull the skirt over, and that keeps any water from getting in, so you can go in holes and waves, you know, over waterfalls or whatever. But for a beginner who doesn't really know what they're doing, then they make sit-on-tops, which is essentially like an ocean kayak, but a little more stable for the river. And it's just so that if they flip over, they fall out, because the hardest part about kayaking is when you flip over, as a beginner at least, when you flip over, you are stuck. You know, you have to like consciously like pull the skirt off and push yourself out. So like for beginners, that's not very appropriate, you know, because they get scared if they flip over. So that's like what sit-on-tops are.
You mentioned earlier about the GoPro executives, and then obviously you were your first competition was in the GoPro Mountain Games. Talk a little bit about that experience.
That was crazy. It was so scary because I'd run Homestay Creek a bunch, which is like a pretty like stout run, you know, and like I'd done well on it on my own just with my friends and stuff. But then I'd like show up and like literally 40 of the best kayakers in the entire world, like the top 10, all top 10, like the 10 best kayakers were all there in the same race, and I had never raced it. Like it's so tiring because it's like a quarter mile long. I had always only like run a section and stopped. So like the first time I ran the whole creek top to bottom was like during the race, my first lap. So like that was crazy scary, and like just like watching all these like I think the scariest part was probably like before I was going, like watching like the best kayaker in the world get rocked by this creek, and I'm like, I have to go now, like I have to go down this creek, you know, like, and like you hear the craziest part was standing up at the top, and like you're going to like put on your boat and you're waiting for your turn, and you're just hearing the intercom like, oh, he's swimming, like it's bad, like there's blood everywhere, you know, not really, but like, so that was a crazy experience, definitely.
Who are some of the role models that you see in the kayaking community?
Oh, like all of those crazy good guys. Probably like Dane Jackson, just because he's like my age and he's like the best kayaker in the world, you know. And then this other guy, the guy who won, Isaac Levinson, he actually showed me the race lines on practice day. So that was kind of cool to have like the guy who ended up winning the race like show me the practice lines. And then Evan Garcia, he wasn't there, but he's like the best, like big waterfall, like big rapid runner in the world, like by far. Like he runs the biggest waterfalls, and so definitely him. He's really good.
Have you been able to get out with any of these guys?
Not
either
before.
prior or after.
Last year I play boated with some of them in Vail at the same thing. GoPro, met a lot of them, hung out with a lot of them. But racing against them was crazy, so that was really cool. Like, cause you could see that they were on their edge too. You know, like they were they were at their what's the word? Their capacity of paddling, and I was on the same creek with them. So that was kind of cool. You know, like there's Dane Jackson, and like I have to race him, and like he did it 10 seconds faster than me or whatever. You know, like that's kind of cool.
They give you any pointers on what you can improve on maybe for going in the future? I mean, since you're only 19, obviously.
Yeah.
You have a whole new career.
Totally.
You know, maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. They all told me, like many of them told me to follow them because there's multiple races in Colorado each summer, and like the next one's at Fibark down in Buena Vista, and they're like the Arkansas Valley, I guess, and they were all telling me to come do the Pine Creek race, which is like a similar thing, maybe a little less difficult run. But yeah, they were all telling me that like traveling around is super fun, and you figure out how to race faster, and this little community just kind of travels around the country together, and so I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
So off boating for a second, we were talking to your dad a little bit in between your races, and he'd mentioned some hockey.
Yeah.
In your youth.
Definitely.
Yeah. What was kind of your experience with growing up playing hockey?
Well, hockey was like my kayaking when I was younger. Like all I did was hockey. I love hockey. It's my favorite sport. Like kayak, like non outdoorsy, like actually game sport. And I went to Vail Mountain School, like I said, but I played hockey on the public high school team. So that was kind of crazy. Like playing on like my senior year, I was captain of the team, and that was cool to be like captain of a team with a school you didn't go to. So that was a crazy experience. And then the two trips he was talking about was Russia, Eastern Europe. We went to like Hungary, Austria, Russia, Sweden, and played hockey all there my freshman year. And then we did the same thing in China my senior year, and that was crazy to like mostly to like see like kids who were like opposite side of the world, like totally different culture, and then play them in hockey, and then like go have a dinner with them afterwards, and like get to know, you know, like you fight them on the hockey rink in like St. Petersburg in winter, and then you like go to a banquet and hang out with them, and they're really cool, you know, and like so that was a crazy experience too.
Did you have any ambition of following hockey?
Yeah,
before kayaking, or did kayaking kind of take over?
Well, like kayaking, it's hard to kind of make a career out of it because you can't like it's hard to make a lot of money, you know. And I was way better at hockey when I was coming out of high school than kayaking. Like I was so good at kayaking, but I wasn't anywhere near like racing Steep Creek or anything. So I was very close to not going to college and going to play hockey, like in the junior system, and you can kind of climb your way up, you know, and then play college somewhere. But I decided that probably wasn't, like I'm not going to the NHL, so that's probably a waste of time, honestly, and kind of a waste of money, so decided to go to college. But it was close. I would have liked to do that.
So then, after possibly leaving Babson, coming back west. Is that kind of what you want to do and take your college into the Pacific Northwest or back here in Colorado, or?
Probably one of those two, either Pacific Northwest or Colorado. But a lot of that is paddling, because like the best paddling, some of the best paddling in the world is up in Washington, Oregon area, or Colorado. But like Washington, if I went to Washington for 2 years, I could be, going off like big waterfalls in a year or something, because they have a lot of big, easy waterfalls. And yeah, I might move out there with my friend, and we'd go to school and paddle. And he's really into paddling too, so hopefully we'd go somewhere with kayaking, because I really like kayaking. Like I'd be down to do that.
Have you been up there before?
No, I've just heard that it's like the best paddling, and the people are cool. It's kind of like a Colorado kind of lifestyle community, like ideals, I guess, but in a different place. And so it'd be cool to have similar things as that I love about here, but just be in a new place that I'd never experienced before. And they have like year-round skiing, year-round kayaking, year-round climbing. Like it's a sweet place to live.
So you could say safely that you're pretty much an outdoor enthusiast.
Totally, yeah. Outdoor and hockey, those are my two. Like that was what I didn't like about Massachusetts, was just not being able to get out and being kind of stuck in the city with all these cranky people and but it's good to be back here.
So going into this summer and even the next couple of summers, any trips lined up? Anything that you eyeing to go do? Any new experiences that you'd like to partake in?
Yeah, the number one is Cataract Canyon. I don't know if you guys heard of this, but you put in Moab and you take out in Lake Powell. So you essentially go through 100 miles of like really remote, out there desert, and then there's Class 5 whitewater in there. So that's kind of crazy. And me and my friend, the same friend, we're going to go to Oregon.